Welcome to Coffee Confessions, an online TV show with one topic, several guests, and various opinions. Today's topic is, has Disney prince and princesses messed us up for life? Do you believe in happily ever after? It was important to discuss this topic since a lot of us have an image of what reality should be, and it contradicts with the real world. So let's hear what we have to say. I'd like to welcome Bhakti Harish. She's a producer and director of Mayavi Dance and Drama Concept. Hi, Bhakti.
Hi Zareen.
How are you?
Fabulous today.
Had a long drive?
Oh yes, pretty long and very thoughtful. I'm very anxious about the questions you're going to be facing today.
Really?
So.
Well, I had such an enthusiastic response from your side about this topic.
Yes.
So tell me what got you excited?
Disney, the subject itself, I think it is, a huge part of my life is defined by Disney, and that's the excitement. Anything in and around Disney, if even I have to witness, be a part of, just chat about it, it's always interesting.
Oh, wow. So you must have a favorite show or an episode that you relate to?
And actually, I follow all of them. I love everything that Disney has done so far. But I do remember the start of it all, and obviously it was Cinderella, and then, this whole princess stories and the stories of dreaming, all those have started with that particular character. But I do remember seeing a lot of Jasmine in Aladdin, because that was the period when, we were growing up in school, coming back from school, rushing to the Disney 1 hour show, and then, going back to Aladdin world, and then so that's, I think I do have few favorites.
That's nice. Is there a certain character that you relate to quite a bit from Disney?
Certain character, not sure. I do see a parts of me in most of these characters. Like I do get sudden connection sometimes when we are watching Rapunzel. I have a 5-year-old daughter, so obviously, we share a lot of things in common when it comes to Disney, so we see all these things together. I do find a lot of connect every now and then, that given such a certain situation in life, probably I would love to behave like this. That kind.
One of the criticisms that Disney sometimes gets is that it's too unreal, and especially young girls have a very unrealistic expectation growing up if that's their ideal.
Yeah, here actually I have a very, very different opinion. I know a lot of people may not like it because when I was a girl, I don't remember seeing these stories, seeing what people see. Like I have a lot of friends who discuss that, why are we exposing our children to these stories where, all the girls are only aspiring a Prince Charming, and, it's all about the beauty and this and that. But probably I never actually bumped into those thoughts when I was seeing those movies as a child. The whole purpose of dreaming and the whole faith that dreams do come true. Nobody told me with so much conviction as much as Cinderella, that if you aspire something, you should give it all. That is what I've probably lived. Rather than, I never actually sat down as a tiny girl dressing up to get my Prince Charming. But I do feel that there's a huge responsibility as a parent that we play. Like when we recently were discussing Frozen, which is, my daughter loves Elsa, naturally, because she's the princess. But then she would ask me, what's your favorite character? And I said, my favorite character is Anna, because, the only fact that, she did everything she could to help her sister. And it is her true love which actually transformed the whole thing. So you might feel that Elsa has magic, but the stronger magic belonged to Anna as a character. But now when my daughter sees the same movie, she sees it very differently. So she sees the element of compassion, element of relationships, that true love is not only between, a man and a woman, and there are other relationships that matter and other people that matter.
One of the main occurrences of villains from earlier on in Disney has always been these women. Is that something that concerns you at times, when that is always the main character, and they're always not only they're villains, but the focus is always jealousy or envy, and they highlight certain things that are quite disturbing.
See, what I also feel is that as a, again, creative producer of entertainment, I do feel that entertainment has always reflected what real society has been like. So there is always a give and take. You cannot say that everything that society is doing is because of what we are seeing. It's the other way around. People show you things that actually are happening as well. That time, women had to only interact with women. Their stories revolved around only women. The other woman who played a huge role. Now that other woman is good and bad. You see fairies, you see godmothers, and you see devils. So it's like that, but both are women.
Another thing which bothers people sometimes with Disney is the image, the outer appearance of the princesses, where not half the world of girls will never be able to relate to. And yet there's a huge fan following. So what's your take on that?
Again, I don't know. Yeah, I don't see it like that. Honestly, if you see Tiana, you know, she's not a perfect girl. Yes, Cinderella was a perfect girl, but if you see Rapunzel, she has freckles. When we say Disney, again, you know, we also mix up the original fairy tales with Disney tales. But I do feel that what Disney has done to those original fairy tales is remarkable. Really changed the whole perception of these stories.
Conclusion, if you were to make a fairy tale, what would your main characters be and what kind of storyline would you use?
I genuinely believe in fairy tales, and most of my stories are women-centric. But I do believe that, you know, I want to tell stories which come from my vision of what woman is, should be, or should have been, or could be. So a few of my characters, like we had this, you know, a classical character Devdasi, who belonged in the 1920th century. But then this girl, how she tackles her situation and how she comes up and still achieves what she aspired to. So my stories always would be about that, like, you know, create your own small beauty around you and your life will become...
Fairy tale.
Yeah, and then you live a beautiful life. You know, it's lovely to be happy-go-lucky all your life. So yeah.
Wow, that's a wonderful way to end this. Thank you. Thank you so much, Bhakti.
Thank you so much, Zareen, for having me. Thank you.
You see every flaw, fine lines, imperfections in your skin tone, dark spots starting to appear. New Palmer's Skin Therapy Oil for your face helps improve the appearance of the most troubling signs of aging. Put your best face forward with Palmer's Cocoa Butter Formula Skin Therapy Oil for your face.
I'd like to welcome now Shri Lakshmi. She's a media professional and a visual artist. Hi, Shri.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And I have to say that you inspired the topic of fairy tales.
I think the first time that we came up with this topic, I mean, this show, this is the first topic I want to like put in because I have experience of people around who live in fairy tale. So this was something that actually came into my mind.
So tell me a little bit about those people that you're talking about. What do you mean when they live in fairy tales?
I have a few friends who actually believe in the happily ever after and the Prince Charming concept. So it's actually good to have them because it gave a sense of hope and everything. But then they have to step into reality also because every time it doesn't work in the way of fairy tales.
The real world, yes, for
yeah,
sure.
It's difficult.
So what is your favorite fairy tale if you have one?
For me, Disney was always a school of art and creativity where I actually learned to fantasize and imagine. So for me, every single fairy tale is so close to heart.
What are the negative connotations that you see in fairy tales?
When it comes to culture and maybe gender stereotype, there are so many misleading thoughts as well as a lot of chaos. I think, and kids, you know, growing up watching those, they can have a totally different perspective about the world, you know, if you're like really growing up.
The typical heroine is always someone who needs saving. Yeah. Do you think that needs to change?
Yeah, I think there should be a change because when you look at fairy tales, the ideal princess is someone who's a pretty one, and who actually is totally naive about the whole world, and who can blindly trust anyone, who can pretend to be happy even though they are not, but carrying out all the chores. But right now, I mean, actually the situation is not like that. The drive to independence should not be, finding the prince and getting married to him.
So if you were to make a fairy tale, what would the storyline be that attracts you, and what kind of characters would you have?
I would actually implement more equality, where both the prince and princess is fighting for the same thing together as a team.
Common goal.
Yeah, common goal. And I would like to add in more difference, like people with different size, race, gender.
What is the one positive thing that you see in fairy tales that is okay for children to watch and aspire to?
I think it's mainly the creative part. The sole purpose of this is to entertain kids and adults. We can communicate about the right ideas and get over that misleading thoughts and chaos from kids' head. This is a great source of entertainment.
What would your ideal fairy tale heroine be?
To begin from the looks, I would portray someone more healthy than a very skinny heroine with like a real size waist. And even with character, I would like to implement more realistic feelings than just the happy feelings, and I would like her to fit into different age groups. Maybe someone in her 30s, or because now we see only the ones between 18 or 20. But then I want to focus on a heroine who has a real purpose for life. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your
Thank
thoughts.
you.
I use Palmer's Stronghold Styling Gel. I like it because it adds texture and definition to my hair, so it's good for my everyday styling. I also like that it has vitamins and it's a natural product.
To discuss this topic, since our image of what reality is and what happily ever after meant is through our childhood memories of these fairy tales. So let's hear what people have to say.
Not being specifically a princess, but there are times I actually go online and watch them, and there's a very strong reason behind it. It's like when I'm really depressed and when nothing works out, so I just need a fantasy in my life.
I'd like to welcome Sarim Irfan, who is a theater personality here in Dubai. Let's hear what he has to say.
Yeah, hi Zareen.
Hi Sarim, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
So do you have a Disney favorite when you were growing up?
I think most of the Disney tales were mostly tilted towards a lot of women, but as growing up in a co-educational institute, I was particularly fascinated with Cinderella. So that was a story that actually stuck in my mind for a lot of reasons.
What was one of the main reasons that you enjoyed the story?
Yeah, I think there was a more of family aspect to the whole thing, of having a stepmom, having a stepsister, and then you can relate to that. So I think there was more of a cultural aspect of that story as well, which hit me.
Do you kind of sometimes find very little reality when it comes to the main characters in these stories, especially when the female counterparts?
And I think there is a lot of fiction involved in that. But if you just take the other aspect of the fairy tale, which is rather the villain, I actually found the villain to be rather more independent or rather more realistic than the damsel in the distress. So I think there is part reality, but not the one that actually people want the children to know about.
That's true.
Yeah.
Another notion about fairy tales usually is that there's a happily ever after. What is your opinion on that?
I think the purpose of the fairy tales can't be blamed. If the purpose is actually to show that if you do something right, you might end up having a happily ever after. In reality, it doesn't happen. For a child, should it happen in the fairy tale? I think it should.
Okay, you should have a happy ending.
You should have it. Otherwise, what would be the takeaway from the fairy tale for a child?
What is the one negative factor that you think fairy tales sometimes leave behind?
I think the one common would be that they tend to give children an idea of having a shortcut in life. Not just the ladies in the fairy tales, even Aladdin, even Ali Baba. They would be honest, but they'll get a shortcut in life if they're honest. You are beautiful, you are being humiliated by your stepmom, but you'll get rewarded by a shortcut. So rather than having a character develop and get out of that misery by his effort or her effort, it would be mostly about that there is a shortcut waiting for you, just be nice.
Do you meet fairy tale princesses in real life? Have you come across them?
Some of the attributes you can tell.
And what are those?
Gold diggers, shortcuts. Shortcuts is one thing which I have predominantly noted that people want in real life just because they think they deserve it, not because they work for it. And that is one notion which is established or ingrained in our minds in childhood, and fairy tales play a big part in it. So just because you're in a bad situation and your intentions were nice, or just because you think you deserve something nice, yeah, you don't work for it, but you expect someone to rescue you. And I think that is something you actually see a lot.
Do you think we should vary now and be careful of what kids are watching to avoid such unrealistic expectations?
I think we'll have to take a step back and then think, what do we want the kids to take away from these fairy tales? If we want them to take away moral values, then probably you'll have to compromise on certain aspects, because a child's attention span won't be that long to let him grasp the whole reality. So you'll have to make a compromise in terms of, okay, fine, we'll let the child know that if you are good, you get rewarded. But then fine, he won't know that that doesn't happen in reality, or there is some other trade-off in that, the whole thing. So I think fairy tales can't be perfect because of the short attention span the children has, and the moral values you want to instill in that child.
A lot of the main characters played by men in fairy tales is a very rich, affluent prince, and also extremely good looking.
Yeah.
Jumps in last minute, saves the day.
Yeah.
Do you have an issue with that image?
Yeah, it makes it difficult for the real life men.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just goes back to the earlier point that then the ladies have this image in their mind that they expect the prince to be charming, to be rich, to be handsome, to be understanding, and then in real life you always have those trade-offs. So I think, yeah, it just creates, even in the end, the happy ending is supposed to be a rich man.
Yeah, and you have
like
a castle in the back.
Even if Aladdin starts as poor, you end up being rich. The whole idea of happy ending, the whole idea of defining happiness is very narrow in these fairy tales.
Of recently, things are changing. A lot of animation movies are being made, and they're stepping away from the fairy tale notion. Any recent ones that you've seen which you would actually want children to see as well, which are inspiring?
I actually enjoyed watching Shrek a lot. And the part that hit me was that instead of the monster becoming a handsome prince, the princess decided to become an ogre. And I think that surprised me for a bit. The idea was that it's not just beauty. I think maybe the children enjoyed the idea that in the end they just settled together. And I think that's a very brave step taken by these Hollywood productions like Disney or these people. And they're experimenting with it, and it's working.
So in conclusion, if you were to look for your fairy tale princess, what kind of attributes are you looking for?
Realistic attributes.
And which are?
Which are understanding. You can't take away the fact that from a very child or from human nature, you get attracted towards beauty. But what you learn while growing up is that there is a whole personality behind it, right? Even the states of happiness tend to vary. You just want someone to be there who understands those states with you.
So are there other fairy tales that you watched growing up?
Sleeping Beauty was one which used to come on the television all the time. Yeah. I used to be fascinated by the witch. Because I always used to be more threatened by the witch rather than be more enchanted by the Sleeping Beauty, and that brought me to the conclusion that actually the villain is a more stronger character. It leaves more impact, even though probably the makers don't realize it. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Sarim.
Thank you for having me here.
I hope you've enjoyed this topic as much as we have. It was lovely meeting guests with different opinions, each one to their own. Most of them took back something good from fairy tales, which was the morals, the storylines, and hope that there's always a better tomorrow. Yet, we also discussed the reality checks that we have to keep. As girls, we cannot always wait for Prince Charming to come save us. Sometimes we have to be the heroes of our own stories. Thank you so much for watching Coffee Confessions. Till next week, stay cool, stay awesome, stay real.
Oh, that's how it's feeling hot.
Yay, we can have AC.
I'd like to welcome, sorry, one more time.
And very
Yeah, do it again, no problem. Is it my mom? Just check.
Yeah, Khan.
Yeah, my mom.
And also some.
Mulan doesn't want to put makeup and short.
I don't know what I said now.
Do you want to do the other way around, please?
This one.
The prince and princesses, no. No, it's fumbling.